Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, faithful friends who are glorified by Allah. In 1988, in a small town in the United States, there lived a very devout Christian husband and wife, namely John and Maria. They were a couple known for being warm and active in the local church community, engaging with other congregations in their relationship with the community. The church closely reflected the Christian values they had held firmly for many years. John and Maria greatly benefited from the presence of a child. They never stopped praying to God for children, and even though time passed without an answer, they remained steadfast in their faith, hoping that one day God would answer their prayers. Their hopes finally came true. After waiting for a long time, Maria became pregnant, and 9 months later, a very healthy and cute baby boy was born. They named their little son Michel, a name rich in meaning and tradition in Christianity. Michel's birth brought extraordinary happiness to John and Maria. They felt that their lives were now complete, and they were increasingly grateful to God for the blessings given to their little family. Every night before they slept, they would pray at Michael's bedside, giving thanks and asking God for protection as a devout Christian family. John and Maria knew that the next step in Michael's spiritual life was to baptize him. Baptism is a tradition passed down through generations in their family, and they believed that through baptism, Michel would be officially accepted into the Christian faith. John remembered how important his own baptism was when he was a baby, and he wanted to give the same experience to his child. They began planning the baptism ceremony with great enthusiasm. Maria shared the details with James, the church pastor, who was very close to them. They arranged the date and details of the event. James was happy to lead the ceremony, and they set a Sunday for Michel's baptism. This church had been part of their lives for a long time and held deep meaning for their extended family. Not only John and Maria, but many who were scattered in various cities were informed about the ceremony. Invitations had been sent out long ago, and everyone felt happy to see how this couple was finally blessed with a child. Preparations began in earnest. John arranged everything related to the logistics of the ceremony, from coordinating with the church to ensuring their guests had places to stay. Meanwhile, Maria was busy choosing special clothes for Michel. Beautiful little white garments were prepared as a symbol of purity and holiness, signifying that Michel would be baptized in the faith they professed. As the days passed with anticipation, Maria would look at Michel, who had grown bigger, and imagine the special moment when Pastor James would pour holy water on his head, marking the moment Michel would officially become part of the Christian community. This image made Maria's heart tremble. For her, this baptism was not just a ritual, but a sacred moment connecting Michel with his God. Meanwhile, John spoke to several church friends about plans for the big day. Many offered prayers and support, feeling that Michel was a blessed child. The big week was approaching, and the church was preparing to welcome the congregation and specially invited guests for the event. The church community eagerly anticipated the ceremony, which emphasized the importance of baptism as a symbol of God's great love. With hearts filled with joy and hope, they prepared to welcome the day that would mark a new milestone in their journey as a family. The day they had been waiting for arrived. Since the morning, the atmosphere in the church began to bustle with the arrival of the congregation, eager to witness the ceremony. Sunlight streamed in, creating a calm and solemn atmosphere as the pews filled with faces full of joy and curiosity. Family, friends, and church members who knew John and Maria well came to offer their support. Warm smiles and light conversations filled the church. Everyone knew this was a special day for the family. The soft sound of the church organ being played made the atmosphere even more solemn. Some congregation members even brought flowers as a sign of respect, filling the church with the fragrant aroma of fresh blooms that decorated the altar. Pastor James, a middle-aged man with a dignified but friendly demeanor, prepared to lead the ceremony. Dressed in a white robe, a symbol of purity, he held the Bible he would read during the ceremony. Pastor James was known as a wise and insightful pastor and had baptized many children in his congregation over the years. However, today felt different. There was something special in the air. John and Maria arrived at the church with pounding hearts, wearing their best clothes. Maria held Michel, still a tiny baby wrapped in white garments that had been lovingly chosen. His face was calm, with big eyes innocently gazing at the world around him. For John and Maria, that moment felt like a dream come true. They stepped forward with hearts full of emotion, gratitude, and overflowing happiness, approaching the altar where Pastor James awaited patiently. At the altar, a silver bowl containing holy water was prepared for Michelle's baptism. The water, according to Christian tradition, symbolizes cleansing from sin and a new birth in faith. At the side of the altar, a large candle burned, signifying the light that would illuminate Michelle's spiritual life after his baptism. As they arrived at the altar, John gently held Maria's hand. Pastor James smiled and greeted John and Maria, signaling that the ceremony was filled with gratitude. Standing before the altar, James held the Bible with steady hands. The atmosphere in the church fell silent, with only the soft voice of Pastor James audible as he began to read the holy verses. Each word felt sacred, filling the room with deep spiritual vibrations. Pastor James then recited the holy sentences confidently, his eyes gently focused on baby Michelle in Maria's arms. The congregation sat quietly, watching the moment with great respect. They knew this was an important moment, not just for John and Maria's family, but also an embodiment of the faith they shared. As John and Maria stood near the altar, their faces reflected a mixture of hope and joy. Mikkel, dressed in his clean white clothes, looked around without any sign of anxiety. Then Pastor James continued with the baptism, holding the silver bowl filled with holy water to pour over Michelle's head, a sign marking the beginning of his spiritual journey as a Christian. But suddenly something extraordinary happened. Michelle, who had been calm, began to move restlessly in his mother's arms. His small hands reached out, as if sensing something uncomfortable about what was about to happen. Maria tried to calm her baby, holding him tightly, but Michelle's anxiety only increased. Pastor James hesitated for a moment, but decided to continue with the baptism. Just as the holy water was about to touch Michael's head, an astonishing event occurred. Michelle, who should not have been able to speak, suddenly exclaimed in a clear and strong voice, "Allah Muhammad." This shocked the entire congregation present. Pastor James's gaze shifted between the congregation and Michelle, his face revealing deep confusion. The atmosphere, once solemn and calm, erupted in chaos. After Michelle's unexpected words, whispers filled the church. Many began to doubt their own beliefs, struggling to comprehend what they had just witnessed. Some rubbed their faces in disbelief, trying to determine whether they had truly heard what they thought or if it was merely an illusion. Amidst the commotion, one person in the congregation, Ahmad, who had witnessed many miracles, spoke up. He suggested that perhaps Michelle was a divine sign, sent to reveal God's power and love. Ahmad's words ignited a stir in the church, causing people to listen with rapt attention, seeking understanding from this extraordinary event. Pastor James, still grappling with the situation, felt compelled to respond. He acknowledged Ahmad's perspective, expressing that while it differed from their beliefs, he couldn't ignore the significance of what had occurred. Their conversation continued, exploring faith, God, and the miracle they had just witnessed. Finally, after much reflection, John and Maria reached a pivotal decision. They felt that this extraordinary event was a sign they could not ignore. Embracing Islam, they believed that Allah had shown them the right path through Michelle's miraculous words. Their journey did not sever ties with Christianity. Instead, it offered a new perspective that brought peace and gratitude for the truth they discovered. Their story became a legend in the community, inspiring many to rethink their views on faith and truth. It stands as a testament to the miraculous search for truth and the transformative power of belief, changing the lives of many.